Welcome to the house, the one they talking about. Word of mouth, the Boxing Playhouse, without a doubt. All the latest and greatest boxing news, that's what it's all about.
Bienvenido a Boxing Playhouse Latin America, el día 24 de agosto de 2022. Aquí estamos con Sakura Armstrong y Martín Alcides de Colombia.
Hola.
¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo te encuentras? How you doing, girl?
Hola. I mean, I'm doing pretty good tonight. I'm having like, you know, an out of body experience this week with all the heavyweight action. It's been quite a while since they've been forefront in boxing. So I'm looking forward to us talking about that.
So is hola the only Spanish word you know in Spanish? Esa es la única palabra que tú sabes en español.
Sí,
No,
sí.
Sakura, ¿por qué?
That's two. That's two. Okay, we'll take that. Anyway, mira, esta semana nos vamos a tener entrevistas con gente en el mundo del boxeo, pero vamos a hablar de la tema del boxeo, las peleas que ha pasado en esta semana, la pelea de
Usyk,
Usyk,
Joshua.
con Joshua, sí, con muchas peleas esta semana, muchas peleas que vienen en el futuro. Y más importante, vamos a hablar de la cosa que está pasando los atletas en boxeo y en el arte marciales, en fútbol, de cuando los boxeadores, la gente del deporte en contacto, en combate que se están deprimiendo. ¿Tú sabes un poco de eso, Martín?
Bastante.
We're going to talk about a little bit about the whole about the fights that just passed with Usyk and AJ, the fights coming up, Luis Ortiz and Ruiz, and a whole bunch of slew other fights here I see on the calendar. And we'll also
That fight is in September. Ortiz,
Yes, sir.
Ruiz in September.
Yes, sir. So 17. And we're going to talk about the whole aspect of mental health and you know, the mental thing the fighters go through. And I have a different perspective about that. We'll speak about that in a minute. Tengo otra perspectiva de lo que pasa un atleta, un boxeador en el mundo del boxeo, más después de una pelea. So, ¿cómo te encuentras? ¿Cómo pasaste la semana, Martín?
Bien, trabajando, haciendo ejercicio, trotando se me clavó un tornillo en el zapato y yo pensando que era una piedra y era un tornillo.
Eso sí duele. Todavía te tiene que doler un poco, ¿no?
No. Por suerte se me clavó en una parte gruesa. El zapato, si se me hubiera clavado más por acá, ahí sí es verdad que no camino. Y escuchaba sonidos de disparos. Y yo, tíale, más asustado estaba y era una moto.
So, Sakura, he says, I asked him how his week was. And he says, everything's been great, working out, doing his thing, running. He said he was running the other day. And he thought he stepped on a rock. And what he did, he stepped on a screw. And by the time he got home, it was dug into his foot. He's like, oh, Jesus. He stepped on a screw and messed up his foot while he was running. And this happens to several boxers. So I know the feeling.
Okay. I mean, but how does it feel now?
¿Cómo te sientes ahora?
Good.
Okay.
Oh, it's healed? Okay. You know what, Danny? It's a great topic, and I'm glad that we have you with us tonight, you know, as a contender, you know, a candidate, and just being in the boxing game for so many years, you'll be able to give us a different perspective on this mental health tip. Because I'm seeing a trend now where a lot of boxers are more open and coming out about their mental health challenges.
Igual, ella me preguntó de la tema del boxeo, cómo pasado la cosa que los boxeadores hoy en día están saliendo y están, ¿cómo se dice? Hablando más de lo que pasa, lo que está pasando cuando se deprimen y cuando le dan entrevistas y cosas así, cuando se ponen un poco bravos y nadie entiende esos puntos, pero yo sí lo puedo entender porque yo pasaba por lo mismo. Ella me preguntó, es un buen tema esta semana para hablar de esa cosa, porque en estos días había varios boxeadores como Danny Garcia y lo que hizo con AJ, que el otro día se puso un poco bravo o raro, porque nunca ha dado una entrevista así. Y Broner, que canceló la pelea de él, porque dijo que tenía problemas mentalmente y ¿sabe? para hacer una respuesta a ella, voy a dejarla que ella siga hablando, pero yo quiero, sí, este es un tema que en mi corazón es una cosa muy importante porque yo he pasado por muchas cosas de prisión y cosas así, hablamos de eso en este programa. Martín, ¿tú has conocido de atletas que ha pasado por las cosas de prisión, cosas así?
No, pero he leído acerca de ello.
Ah, ya entiendo.
Hopkins en Juno.
Sí. Bueno, I was just saying, Sakura, you know, I'm gonna say what you say, and I'm gonna answer it and not answer in English. I was saying that how you spoke about this week's topics, you know, outside of the upcoming fights and the fights that just happened, but about, you know, the things that the mental aspect of the sport that we all love and we work in boxing, the mental aspect of these things that people in the past, it was taboo to talk about it. Now fighters are starting to come out and give having people take a closer look at these things.
Oh yeah, I think it's important, you know, and we're gonna get to it, but first, you know, we gotta actually talk about this whole Anthony Joshua versus my man Usyk and his retaining of his titles at heavyweight against Anthony Joshua. You know, like, what do you guys think of what happened in that fight? I found this one thing that I found kind of funny. It says, "You were robbed, champ. I had it 12-0. You go over there and talk your shit, bro." Like, I guess they making fun of him. I don't know. There's no way it was 12-0. So you guys have to tell me, what do you think about Usyk's performance and how it worked out for AJ?
Well, I mean, would you like to go first, Juan? ¿Queréis primero?
Conmigo.
Sí, quiere dar una respuesta. You say in Spanish, yo lo digo en inglés.
Bueno.
De la tema de boxeo, como tuviste la pelea, porque alguien le dijo que le ganó 12-0, eso es imposible.
Dani, hubo una parte de la pelea en el sexto round, si mal no recuerdo, que Joshua lanzó muchos golpes, pero solo le conectó un golpe en el pecho a Usyk, el único golpe que le conectó en el sexto round.
¿Cómo tú lo tenías en la pelea?
Usyk ganando.
Okay. He says that he doesn't agree with what he just saw. I don't agree with it either. I mean, that whoever said that was 12-0, I know they must have been joking. They were trying to be a friend, but a friend is going to tell them the truth. My man, you lost the fight. Usyk fought an incredible fight, very tactical. His boxing acumen is off the charts. You know, look at the two that she's under, Lomachenko's. You know, they're very good tacticians. They use angles. They use great boxing tactics. They have great strategy. And I had the fight, not a shutout, but I had it was a good fight. It was a competitive fight. I thought AJ did a lot better this time as far as using some boxing or whatever. But in my opinion, you know, it was the right decision. I don't think as a friend, you know, somebody telling him, hey, you want to fight 12-0. He had to be joking with that guy because, or either that or he paid the guy to go up there and say that, you know, because the reality of it is that there's no way he won 12-0 at all. If you gave if you gave Anthony Joshua maybe a round or 2 or 3, you know, maybe, but I had Usyk all the way from beginning to end.
I think the issue was, you know, basically they're just saying, like, when the training team was like, hey, you're 3 rounds ahead, which I really don't think you should ever tell a fighter that they so many rounds ahead, because you really don't have no idea what's on those judges' cards, number one. And it does affect the way that you might fight a round after coming out of the corner and hearing that you're ahead. So I don't agree with that tactic. But also, I just think, like, are these trainers is there too many yes men in his corners and around him as friends? You know, that would cause you to actually, you know, think that it was okay for you to steal a very precious moment from Usyk right after he had that victory.
Martín,
dime.
¿entiendes lo que dijo ella? Que
más o menos.
En la esquina de Joshua hay demasiada mucha gente que le están lambeando el ojo y no le están diciendo la verdad. Para decirle que está 3 rondas arriba de la pelea, ¿tú crees que eso estaba cierto o que le dieron la cosa bien o no?
Para mí que le dijeron las cosas, pero él estaba muy desesperado. Digo yo.
Yeah, he says, he was a little bit, ¿cómo fue?
Que su esquina le decía las cosas como era, pero que él era el que estaba como acelerado, pues, no estaba indeciso. No estaba seguro de sí mismo.
The corner was giving him good instructions and things like that, but he was the one that was indecisive and one of the things that, the instructions they were giving him, you know what I mean? And that was the difference. We got a comment here from Third Wall Street Champions. When you fight a championship fight and it comes down to the cards, you have to unanimously beat the standing champion or knock him out. No close calls. I agree with that, but at the same time, look, I fought a fight in Puerto Rico, right? And prior to this fight, I was overconfident, and I was overlooking my opponent, And I worked with the coach at the time for since my 4th pro fight to that fight, right? I was 18-0 with him, And what happened was that when I went into the corner in the 6th or 7th round, I was slowing down. I was winning the fight in the scorecards, but I was slowing down. The guy was starting to get to me a little bit. And the 8th round, I slowed down a little bit more. The 9th round, when I got into the corner, the 10th round, I looked in the corner, and the person that I worked with, 18 fights prior, wasn't in the corner with me. And another person who I never met before, who we hired to work cuts, was in the corner with me. I was told they let him get in the corner to work on my eye that was swelling up, but he was the one giving me instructions, not my coach. The guy comes and tells me, "Hey, listen, my brother. I think it was like 11th or 12th round, the championship fight." He says, "Bro, you're losing the fight unanimously. Like, you have to knock this guy out." I'm like, "Dude, I'm running out of gas. I gotta try to last whatever I could." It was 11th round. I gotta like just try to make it, man, because I'm out of this, man. I got like no gas in the tank. He's like, "Whatever you got left in the tank, go out there and knock this guy out because you're losing the fight big time." So I went out there and did exactly like this stranger told me to do. And I ran out of gas, and the guy beat the living crap out of me, and I lost. And when I got back, I'll get into that story later on. But when I spoke to my head coach at the time, I'm like, "Why weren't you in the corner?" He's like, "Well, you weren't listening to my instructions, so I figured another voice, you would listen to another voice a little bit better." And I found that really strange because I never spoken to this person other than, "Hey, you want to work my fights for cuts? How much do you charge?"
Wow.
And that's a true story. And I'm not shooting, I'm not throwing shade on my old coach. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a strategy. I've never seen that strategy before, but I think that in AJ's case, I didn't have him winning, up 3 rounds or 2 rounds. I had it, a pretty good even fight. But I had Usyk just doing a little bit more with his boxing acumen. It's very hard to beat a guy like that. And I know Third World Street Champion saying when you're fighting a champion, you have to beat the champion in every sense of the word. Right. So you have to add that into the situation. We have Rob MC saying, "What's up, Sakura? Hi, guys." We have Angulo from Colombia saying, "What's up, Danny?" Hello, Angulo, Colombia, everybody. Hello, I miss you guys. Saludos, Angulo. Y Rob MC, hola. Y dice, "Hola, Sakura." I hope that answers your question.
Guys, this one thing I want to talk about. I know AJ has managed to steal a lot of the attention from Usyk and what his accomplishments were in that fight. The body work for AJ on Usyk did have an effect on him in later rounds. That was good, and it allowed him to have a good round in the 9th round. But when AJ wasn't able to finish him that round, and then immediately when Usyk came back for the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th, he made sure that he dominated, right? Really closed out them championship rounds. And I think that he wasn't given enough credit for being able to not just dig deep because he was tired, like totally fatigued in the night, but digging deep and making sure that he took every round after that happened. So, I mean, I want to talk about Usyk's performance and where we really see him at in the heavyweights at this point.
¿Tú entiendes lo que dijo ella, Martín? ¿Cómo tú ves a Usyk en este tiempo? ¿Cómo hizo la pelea? ¿Cómo tú lo viste en la pelea? ¿Y cómo tú lo ves en el tema de los pesos completos hoy en día?
Naguará, Dani, Usyk entró comiéndose los pesos pesados porque de la nada fue un peso crucero y a las 16 peleas con los campeonatos unificados. Llegó al peso pesado, tuvo sus buenas peleas. No fue como otros boxeadores que suben 2 categorías y de una pelea con el campeón. No, él fue más inteligente y se preparó para otras peleas y ahí fue subiendo y ahí se enfrentó al campeón. Fue más inteligente.
He says, ¿le gustaste como peleó esta pelea con AJ? ¿Te gustó? He said he liked the way Usyk fought in the fight. He fought an intelligent fight. But what he liked more prior to this was that Usyk, he entered and he was a light heavyweight in the amateurs, right? I believe. And then as a pro, he dominated the cruiserweight division and he eased his way into the heavyweight division intelligently. He didn't go from A to Z right off the bat. Like he studied and worked his way like an intelligent boxer would. And that impressed him the most. And he thinks that's why he's able to perform the way he's performing, because he does things intelligently and he takes the right steps in order to do so.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. Exactly. And the thing of it really for me is that no matter what the odds are against Usyk, he's proved in a couple of fights now. Like, because we can go back to Shizora even, and he's been able to prove and establish that he can hang with this particular set of heavyweights. So, I mean, guys, do you see him being able to be competitive, like really competitive against a Fury, a Tyson Fury?
¿Cómo tú lo ves con Tyson Fury?
Esto yo también se lo dije al profe Luis, Dani, y me dice, Martín, no, Fury está muy, muy grande y muy pesado para que se enfrenten todavía. Le va a ser muy difícil a Usyk por el tema de la estatura.
Yo pienso igual. He says the same thing. I actually think we have a common denominator, a coach that works with us, works with me. His name is Luis Silva. And when we talk about Usyk and Tyson Fury is supposed to be coming out of retirement to fight Usyk. If that happens, that'd be great. I like that fight. I think it'll be draw a lot of eyes to the TV and a lot of butts to the seats, right? But I just think that with all of Usyk's boxing acumen, his intelligence, his I agree with Rob. Rob just mentioned it. Usyk has a chance of beating him on points, but that is a big man. I mean, Usyk is not a big guy. Fury is a big man. Long reach, decent power. He also has a good boxing acumen. He knows how to use his ring, lateral movement. It won't be as easy. Many people may not like this. I'm a real big fan of Usyk, but on that occasion, I go with Fury because of just the size. It depends which Fury shows up, right? Because if he's been drinking and partying and doing all this other stuff, then listen, Usyk is going to have a easy walk in the park. Not a walk in the park, but a really good fight. And Usyk is a really intelligent fighter. So I see him giving him a good fight. Matter of fact, I just noticed Coach Sherman Henson. Hello, Coach. He says giving Tyson Fury a very good fight. And I see it the same way. I don't think it'll be a landslide. I think it'll be a closer fight than most people think.
Okay, Rob has another comment.
He knocked out AJ twice, and he couldn't knock out Chisora either. Well, styles make fights, and everybody has a different thing. Look,
AJ is a different type of animal. Like he's in there to survive and not
really. Chisora le da besos a los oponentes, Sakura.
Yeah, exactly. He says, yeah, Chisora is a different guy. Chisora goes and kisses his opponents. I mean, he's just a different animal all around, you know. But I just think, look, AJ's a hell of a fighter, former Olympian, just like Usyk. But let's be honest, Usyk hasn't had the magnifying glass and everybody on him and making the money that AJ's made. AJ is the golden boy of this era. He's made a lot of money. He's put a lot of butts in seats. And you know, a long time ago, a coach always told me a boxer that sleeps in silk drawers isn't a hungry fighter. No matter how hard you train, it's hard to get up in the day when you got a bunch of yes men around you. And I just think that Robert Garcia and the Garcias probably did a great job, and I've seen a lot of difference in him. But at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is, I just think Usyk has that little bit more hunger, great boxing intelligence. And he just wants it right now. He wants to prove to the world that he's the man to beat.
Right. I mean, I do want to go on. I see Rob from UK. Shout out to my man Rob. British boy is in the house, and he says Usyk is a point winner mainly. So, in other words, we won't be seeing any Wilder, Fury, knockdowns throughout fights. If they do so happen to meet, and Fury wants to pretend he's that he's coming out of retirement. I have, some thoughts on that. Like, I think it's all marketing. I never thought he was actually retired because that title never left his possession. He is still in possession of that WBC World Championship at heavyweight, which means that there's no retirement that occurred technically.
Yeah, of course. I mean, these guys take about a few months off and they get back and just to start you off. Usyk is I think that'll be a chess match. I think Tyson Fury is a really smart guy. He tries to get in people's heads. He gets in the public's head. He sells tickets, and I like what he brings to boxing. I just love the way Usyk fights. I love the way he puts his punches together. I love the way he moves around. He doesn't get to your head with words. He gets in your head with hands and skill. So it's gonna be an awesome fight.
Well, I'm on to my next topic. Of course, thanks Rob for agreeing with me. He was never retired. The next topic, of course, is AJ. Where does he go from here, right? He just had the loss. Wilder's coming off a loss. He does have a fight coming up next month in New York against Helenius, the Nordic Nightmare. Most people are betting on the fact that Nordic is not going to make it through that entire fight. So this is like a comeback type of fight that they're trying to warm Wilder back up. And just today, we saw that Wilder did come out and say, well, hey, look, if Fury doesn't want to come out of retirement, then I'll fight him. He says, I'll fight all of them. The king is back. Well, I do like that. Of course, I'm a huge Wilder fan. And for the reasons, like, he gives us exciting fights. And that's what draws me to him, especially when it comes to power, because we all know Sakura loves a good knockout. So, I mean, I think he's bringing more, more action and more drama to the heavyweight division. And he's basically saying, hey, if Fury want to keep playing these games with you, Usyk, saying he's retired and, he's done and all this kind of stuff, you got options, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say this in Spanish. Estamos hablando de la tema de Wilder, que va a regresar a pelear. Nunca se retiró. Se está preparando a pelear contra Helenius el mes que viene. Yo creo que la fecha va a ser octubre 15, si no me equivoco. Va a pelear en Brooklyn, allá en Nueva York. Y ella es un fanático de Wilder, ¿no? Pero voy a decirlo en inglés, en español. Para mí, esa va a ser una pelea para mí fácil para Wilder, porque es una pegada que mucha gente no lo tiene. Él nació con eso. On English, we're talking about what Sakura just said about the AJ Helenius fight. Excuse me, like Wilder Helenius fight. I have Wilder stopping this guy. Wilder has what we call, there's this movie that I love with Eddie Murphy. It's called Life. Him and Martin Lawrence.
Yes.
And they were talking about I forgot they were playing a baseball game and Can't Get Right. There was a Can't Get Right was at bat, right? And he hit it out the park, and Eddie Murphy said that boy got dumb strength. He hit that ball too far. AJ got that dumb strength. I mean, Wilder got that dumb strength. You can't look. 90% of the fighters out there who fight Wilder, AJ, Fury did it. He fought very intelligent. You have to fight almost the perfect fight against Wilder. Wilder can make mistakes. And if you make a mistake, he gonna put you to sleep. That dude hits harder than anybody I've ever seen. And other people have hit hard because of the style, their movement, they're slipping. And, Tyson's one of the hardest hitters out there, but it was the momentum that Tyson had, the way he moved, and he took his body with him, and he put himself in the right positions. I trained under the same tutelage as up in the Catskills, so I know what that's about. But Wilder has that that time bomb type of, a punch where if he hits you, man, it's all over. It changes. You cannot make a mistake with him. And look, Fury did, and Jesus brought him up from the grave. But
it's the extra weight too that Fury likes to have on fight night too, that helps him be able to, rise from the dead, as people say. But this is the thing too, Danny. We cannot forget that if AJ does, because remember, the topic is if AJ versus Wilder happens.
If it happens,
is this a possible career ender for AJ right there?
If Wilder fights AJ anytime soon, I think he's a little bit more time with his trainers, and get back on his feet, get off of this second loss or whatever, this back-to-back loss or whatever you want to call it. He needs a confidence builder. He shouldn't go to Wilder next. He should go another route, maybe somebody in the top 5, not in the top 3, and or maybe the top 10. He needs a confidence builder because, Wilder has that power, has that shot that, look, AJ, good fighter, great boxing skills, great physique. But let me tell you something, man. He gets hit in that chin and those whiskers are going to fall out. Those are just facts. I know Wilder. He ain't my friend, but I've met him personally. Super good dude, I like him better off camera than on camera, but he's just a cool dude, man. And the guy hits hard. Somebody said. What do
you think about Wilder, AJ, Martin fighting Wilder?
¿Qué tú piensas?
La pelea entre Joshua y Wilder.
Sí.
Joshua tiene el boxeo, pero Wilder tiene la bomba.
Eso es lo que digo. She says, AJ has great boxing skills, but Deontay has those bombs.
Danny, y Tyson Fury es el único que se ha levantado después de recibir los derechazos de Wilder. El único. Se ha puesto de pie como si nada.
Yeah, Fury was the only one who was able to stay away from him and use his boxing. But like Rob says, AJ isn't aggressive enough. With Deontay, you can't be at the end of his punches. You have to be in his chest to avoid those shots. You have to have a good corner to let the ref know to not let Dante hit him in the back of the head, because he hits a lot of people in the back of the head, which hurts a lot, right? So you have to have a good corner. You have to be in his chest. And I don't think AJ has that in him to be that, to over muscle somebody and back them up. And anybody punching on their heels is not going to, as hard as Wilder hits, punching off your heels ain't going to have the same effect. It's still
Say
strong.
that in Spanish for our people, Danny.
¿Tú puedes decir eso en español? ¿Tú entendiste lo que dije, Martín?
Más o menos.
Dilo.
Repite lo que no te
Bueno,
no te escuché.
tranquilo. Estamos hablando de la tema de AJ y Wilder. Para mí, Wilder tiene mucha pegada para pelear para AJ que se quede enfrente de él. AJ va a tener que tener bien agresivo, a estar en el pecho de él y a empujarlo para atrás para ponerlo en los talones de los pies, ¿no? Yo no creo que AJ tiene la capacidad ni el estilo y la pegada para hacer eso. AJ es buen boxeador, pero la pegada que tiene Wilder es una cosa increíble que no sale, no se encuentra en estos días mucho. ¿Tú me entiendes? Y para decir lo que dijo un hombre aquí que se llama Ian Schoolboy Garrett, para mí y para él y mucha gente, yo creo que AJ debe coger un momentico y a pensar la cosa, coger una siesta, como se dice ahí en Colombia, ¿no? Una siesta de boxeo y a prepararse mentalmente y a sacarse de boxeo un poco tiempo, no hacer sparring, quizás mirar los videos, a ver lo que ha hecho mal y a recuperar el deseo de boxear y a pelear y a encontrar lo que le está faltando en estos días. ¿Qué tú piensas de eso, Martín?
Joshua no volvió a ser el mismo, por así decirlo, desde su pelea con Andy Ruiz, desde su primera derrota.
Sí,
No fue el
pienso yo.
mismo.
Well,
Todo el
here's
mundo
a
piensa eso.
perspective from Ian. I'm sorry, Martin.
No,
A perspective from Ian, Schoolboy Garrett, is that AJ needs to take a mental break or retreat away from boxing.
I touched on that. I touched on that in Spanish.
Go ahead.
I touched on that on Spanish, and I agree with them totally. Like, look,
Okay.
at the end of the fight, and we were talking about this. Ian said it again. What I said in Spanish, coming out back-to-back losses. It's a really hard thing. I suffered. I went 22-0 before I lost the fight. I lost the fight in Puerto Rico to a good fighter, and then 6 weeks later they put me in a fight with somebody else, and I lost again to a courageous fighter, out of Tampa, Orlando Rivera, right? And the truth of the matter is, the mental aspect of it, when you're undefeated and you go undefeated, let me tell you something. Sometimes it's better, and I've noticed this, and I'm not saying it's better, but if you're going to lose early when there's nothing on the line, because when you get to that level, and you're losing this money and you're losing all these opportunities, is so mentally, drastic, the life altering. You don't realize the effect it has, because that's when you really find out who your true friends and who your allies are, because everybody abandons ships like rats. They just abandoning it because it's going down, and nobody wants to help you salvage the boat. Nobody wants to patch it up. They just looking for the next boat to jump on. So I agree with Ian, in the aspect of maybe he needs to take a step back. 2 losses back to back. It wasn't enough time to. I'm not saying that the Garcias are the right answer. I seen some changes in him, and that doesn't happen overnight.
I saw some improvement. I saw some improvement.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen overnight. That happens over time, because it took a long time for AJ.
That's one fight under a new training camp. Yeah,
and it was a mandatory rematch or whatever the case may be. But I really think they need to take a step back. Maybe hang out in Dubai a little longer and go indoor skiing or something. Just get away from boxing for a while, and then regroup and then get back to it and take a step back. Don't fight somebody in the top 5. Fight somebody in the top 15. He's earned that right. He's earned the right to take a step back and build his confidence again, I believe.
I believe so too. I also wanted to talk about another heavyweight situation, and that is Joyce versus Parker. They're out there, not King Kong yet. We're going to get to him next, but Joyce versus Parker, that could be like the winner could possibly get an AJ fight, like a money fight. So far, out of all the names mentioned, AJ, we haven't seen him against Wilder, of course, but we haven't seen him against Joyce, and we haven't seen him against King Kong. So those are 3 names that float out there for like when he returns. None of those fights seem like easy fights for AJ.
¿Qué tú piensas de esa pelea entre ahora mismo Joyce va a pelear con Parker en poco tiempo y que el ganador puede pelear con AJ? ¿Qué tú piensas de eso, Martín?
Parker, otra pelea con Joshua, porque en la primera pelea el árbitro arbitró muy mal, Danny. Hizo todo muy mal el árbitro. Ni siquiera sabía inglés. Y Parker le derrotó por primera vez a Ruiz. Va a ser una pelea interesante.
¿Tú estás hablando de la pelea de AJ contra quién? ¿O
Parker.
Parker contra quién? ¿Con Joyce?
Ajá.
Sí.
O sea, a Parker sí lo conozco, a Joyce no. I don't know him.
He's not very familiar with Joyce, but he says that, yeah, obviously the first
Parker.
fight around, the referee got involved a little bit too much, but that, Parker versus Joyce, he thinks that it'll be interesting who comes out winning on top of that. And, maybe, yeah, they could fight AJ. That may be an interesting fight. He's not very he's not very familiar with Joyce. He's familiar with Parker and not with Joyce.
Parker está
That's cool.
infravalorado, Dani. Está infravalorado. Parker está muy infravalorado.
He says that Parker he's a little bit
Infravalorated. No,
like he's overhyped.
Okay. Well, Joyce did beat Daniel Dubois, who now has a WBA title in his own right after coming to the United States a couple of months ago and winning that WBA title on a Don King show. So it seems to me that, you're showing levels when you beat somebody, and then later when they come back from their injury, it was a bad cut that Dubois had in that fight. When you come back from that injury and that opponent has now become a champion, it shows that you're might be a level above that champion now.
It definitely raises the bar.
Yeah, it raises his bar as one of his former opponents that won. And I mean, Parker, you don't know what Parker you're going to get. Let's be honest. It's hit or miss depending on who he's fighting. And so with that in play, if Joyce can get through, because he's a juggernaut. So if he can get through this fight with Parker, then I think that's a great opponent for AJ to, see what's going on and kind of like do a comeback, what do you call it? A stay busy type fight, and see if that test is, something that he can accomplish.
¿Qué tú piensas lo que dice ella? Que el ganador de esa pelea sería una buena pelea contra Anthony Joshua, ¿no? Y eso puede ser una forma de medir donde se encuentra en este momento con AJ, Anthony Joshua.
Sí, Dani, pero primero Joshua tiene que resolverse internamente, ¿sabes?
Yeah,
porque mira, he cry in his fight, he cry and, ¿cómo se dice? He throw away the belts, the ring belt and the WBA belt, I don't know.
Yeah,
and he slapped Lomachenko, I don't know that.
Yeah, you're right. He says that AJ needs to, he says that AJ needs to take a little bit of a breather, man. He needs to get away, regroup, stop hanging around a bunch of yes men. I know the Garcias are not like that, but just hanging around people, humble himself a little bit, get refocused, because
Danny Garcia or Ryan Garcia?
Well, Carl definitely said, AJ, who? Like, he's not even want to entertain any conversation about AJ at this point. And then Ian says that, if he takes this break, you can become what you are trying to achieve in the end as well. Like, even with a break. But I see it as he already has a lot of breaks in between fights.
He does, but I just think that, look, I think it was you and I that spoke about this. Hablamos de este tema, that he saw a sports psychologist, and the mental aspect. Let me tell you first and foremost, after the fight, and I'm me being a fighter, I never really had any issues with interviews, but tú puedes decir esto en español si puede. After a fight, we go to training camp, and I was boxing from the age of, I don't know, I took it real serious around the age of 17, but so let's say the 15 until the age of 46. That's a long time. You know what I mean? That's 31 years of my life. After a fight, me and you are punching each other in the head for 40 minutes or whatever, 36 minutes plus the minutes in between. So we're in there for 45 minutes or whatever. And the first thing people want to do is ask you how you feel, whether you win or lose. And be honest with you, we don't always have our bearings intact. You know what I mean? We just finished putting our lives on the line, We just finished wanted to basically kill somebody. You know, we don't really do it, but that's the mentality you have when you're in training. You want to just punch a hole through somebody, and then you want to go. They want you to go talk to a journalist, and I'm not knocking them because now I'm a journalist, right? And I'm doing interviews. But the reality of the situation is you can't expect the most coherent or the most polite interview ever, because the reality of it is our mind is going 100 miles a minute. We just finished winning or losing, right? Especially in the losing aspect of things, where you're not mentally, you just finished losing. You've been preparing for this guy 6 to 8 weeks. That's the only thing you've thought about. And now they want to ask you about how you feel losing. And maybe you felt that you won the fight. Maybe you felt you did better. You can't really be emotionally intact for an interview like that. And I don't know if you agree with it, but I've been there and done that, you know, and I know what that's like.
For me, I think it wasn't mental in that moment. I think he was pissed off that he didn't get the W. And that's what made him act out. Like a lot of people are saying, oh, it's mental distress. He's mental. It's like, nah, I saw some anger there. I felt like he just was like pissed that things didn't go his way and he didn't get what he worked hard for. Now, most boxers at that time, even though they are in that aggression and that still in that moment where they're ready to fight, you know, they do understand and know how to, you know, cover that feeling up until you're out of the camera light. Like they have that control. Danny, I know you had some control after some fights that you know was some BS decisions, etc. But AJ, because he has so many fans backing him and he knows he cannot really do much wrong, he decided, I'm pissed. I want everybody to know I'm pissed. But then I'm going to come back around and say, oh, Usyk's the best. Usyk, he won tonight. Oh, he's a great champion, his country. To try to cover up like, oh, shit, like I just got really pissed off in front of everybody, threw my belt around, etc., etc. You know, so I'm not going to buy the whole mental health thing. Before we go back into the mental health, though, Danny, I wanted to talk about the fight that we were about to talk about, which is King Kong Ortiz versus Andy Ruiz. That's coming up next month. Who you got? And I mean, Ortiz was good at baiting Ruiz, who was not going to take this fight, into taking this fight.
¿Qué tú tienes esa pelea entre Luis Ortiz y Andy Ruiz?
Dani, tengo mucho interés en verla, no sé qué decir, ambos son muy buenos.
He says he doesn't know. They're like both really good. I asked him what he thought about the fight. Yeah, they're both really good. Styles make fights. Andy Ruiz is my style of fighting. You know, he comes in forward. Those really beautiful combinations. He moves his head. You know, like I hate to say it to compare it because he's his own man, but he has that kind of like, you know, Tyson type of style. Come forward, put his punches together and put you out. You know, and I love that style of fighting, aggressive. But Luis Ortiz, trained by a good friend of mine. We interviewed him not too long ago. Herman, you know, Caicedo, good trainer, awesome trainer.
Absolutely.
He has a
Danny,
great.
Luis can use the Ali Shuffle. The circle dance.
Yeah, Luis can do a lot of things. He can box the hell out of you. And don't forget it, he has pretty good pop on his punches too. Yeah. And he's a southpaw. And he's a big heavyweight.
That's what messes up a lot of heavyweights when they fight him.
Yeah, and his boxing is incredible. He has a great amateur background, just like Luis Ortiz does. I mean, Andy Ruiz does. I mean, it's a toss-up, but I want my boy Coach Herman to win, so I'm going to go with Luis Ortiz.
Y el tema de la edad, the age, la edad, because Andy Ruiz have 33 and Ortiz have 42, 43.
Oh, you think age?
It doesn't matter.
Age is going to be a factor.
It doesn't matter, or
I don't know. I feel like this. I feel like is Ortiz's fight to win because he has the power still, even as a
The
slower
power,
boxer.
his
But
intelligence
as the
and
fight goes on,
experience.
it's less and less chance because he's going to start slowing down and getting fatigued. And that's when Ruiz can step in and try to make some things happen. But
Yeah,
he's got to last to that point.
because his pride and style, he doesn't waste a lot of energy.
Right.
Yeah, it's a similar situation to Deontay. He Luis Ortiz, he can't make mistakes. He's got to fight a smart fight, do it early, because once Andy Ruiz starts to, figure him out and get close enough to him, he's going to get close to him. He could probably do some damage.
Right. Rob says that be a good fight, both bruisers.
They
And
both
then
are.
Ian says, I heard when he said Ali shuffle, when he do the Ali shuffle.
The circle dance of Muhammad Ali. The circle dance.
He's going to circle the ring and move him around the ring.
Yeah, and that also tire him out too.
Yes.
And then another good thing that, Ian is the NBA title holder when he was fighting. So he's saying, I've lost when they thought I would win, and I won when they thought I would lose. So, but that being said, Ian, you tell us, like, were you able to keep your composure in both situations, though? That's the thing. I mean, did you do that? Danny, you speak on that. Were you able to keep your composure?
I always did, man. Look, I gave it and I took it. There were times when, like I said, when I lost, there's always, everybody has an excuse. Oh, I lost because I didn't get the train right. I didn't get this. I didn't get that. The thing about it is when those situations arise, and no training camp is actually perfect, right? But when things go wrong and we win, we never talk about the things that went wrong. When things go wrong and we lose, we come up with the excuses. And to this very day, man, look, I have 34 wins and 7 losses. I got beat all 7 times. All 7 times I got beat. And I'll never disrespect the people that I went against and lost against, because they beat the best that I had to offer that day. No matter what training camp was, no matter what coach or sparring partner or girlfriend or wife or management team did, I went into that fight giving it the best that I had at that very moment. So if that was all I had that day, and say Tarver beat me that day, he beat the best that I had to offer. I mean, we always say, oh man, I wish I had a different circumstances. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. You know what I mean? I mean, that time has passed. You know what I'm saying? But when I think about these things, I wish I would have had a little bit more time for certain different fights or whatever. And I wish things would have turned out differently, because I think I had a lot more to offer. But don't we all? Don't we all when we come up short? So I'm not going to disrespect the people I went against and diminish their accomplishments by my iniquities. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do get it. My thing is, and Ian says, it's a learning experience going through those situations. So I understand that. If you're not in that ring and you haven't prepared the way that you guys do for fights and stuff, it's kind of hard for us to, as boxing fans, to really realize like how much of a hurt that is. But I do personally experience what's known as a loss hangover, I'm like Macho, you know what I'm saying? I have a hangover when my dude doesn't win. Like I'm upset. I'm hurt. And I go through that with the boxer. But Andy Ruiz has some, he has some that same type of thing that he had to go through after winning, so historically against AJ and taking his titles and then going over to Saudi and underperforming. He went through a time of depression before he could come back and get himself right. And, that's a part of the game, isn't it, Danny? I mean, having that, after you lose, you kind of got that hangover and you start having some issues with mental health, because you are like up when you get ready to go and you're hyped for your fight and you're believing in yourself and you're positive. And then after the loss, you got to like, oh, shoot, can't believe that happened, It's like such a dramatic change that you go through with fights?
Well, I'm going to say this in Spanish and English.
Okay.
I'm going to go in English first. You're 100% right. You know, like I said, I was undefeated 22-0 before I lost my first fight. And I'm not harboring any feelings about it, but reflecting back at that time, they scheduled me for a fight literally like 5.5 weeks, 6 weeks later. And I lost again. So now I'm 22-2. And you wouldn't believe, more than the loss, and the loss crushed me, right? More than the loss was the reaction that people had around me. The people that I loved more than almost my family, you know, they were ready to abandon me. They did abandon me, actually. At that particular time, I was going through bankruptcies while fighting. I had IRS situations and so on and so on, which were my own doing, right? But to know that the people that I was around, that were around me all the time when I was winning, like I couldn't even go to the bathroom alone without somebody standing outside and making sure that I had TP. You know, it was the craziest thing. But when I lost that fight, man, I'll never forget it. And we have mutual friends. You know, one friend told me, "Oh, you need to get rid of that coach. He's no good." And you know, here they are nowadays working together. You know, and I won't mention no names. You know what I mean? And then the one guy at the time that I was with, I loved him so much that if he told me to do something, I would do it, and I did it to. I trusted and believed him into a fault, and I love him to the depth to this very day. But to know that when I lost that fight, the mental aspect of what happened to me, that before that, oh, hey champ, hey, I got something for you to eat. Hey champ, let's go over here. I got you. Hey champ, let's go do this. No, everybody wants to do something for me. Everybody wants to help me. Everybody. But when I lost the fight, man, no one called me. No one was there for me. No one wanted to be with a loser because I lost 2 fights, you know, and I couldn't even get it. People, I mean, I say this all the time, but I made these people money. They've gone to fights. I've gotten them in for fights for free. I've done, you know, whatever I could do, and I couldn't get these guys to give me a cup of water. I didn't ask for it, but to know they didn't offer it, knowing that I needed it, I never felt more alone in my life. You know, and I to this very day, I don't put anything on YouTube. I have never really put any of my fights on YouTube. I have 34 wins, but there are 6 losses on YouTube. So that's what the world thinks of me. But at this point, I don't care, right? You know, I've never really put things up on YouTube and stuff like that. And I did that at the behest of the people I was involved at the time, because they're like, "Oh, don't put anything on YouTube. We don't want nobody studying you," you know. But people
okay, yeah, that's an old school thing.
It's smart, you know. But at the same time, people were studying me because I wasn't evolving. I was just doing the same thing, you know. And I have my own qualms about that. But the mental aspect of boxing it's really mind blowing, because when you're winning, everybody loves you. When you're winning, everybody does everything. You can't even pay for food. You go to a restaurant, you can't even pay for a meal. I kid you not. When I lost that fight, and I lost some money, and I lost those 2 fights, every person that said they loved me, every single one, man, that wasn't related to me, you know, turned their back. And then they start making up rumors. They start making up things to cover up the things that they didn't do. Listen, I can accept what I didn't do. I lost. I got my butt kicked. You know, maybe I underestimated the guy in Puerto Rico, because I really did. I really did underestimate. That is totally my fault. But as a coach, who I am now, I don't allow my fighters to even cross that line. I push them, and I talk to them, and I preach to them, and let them know that even an opponent, we spoke about this not too long ago, about that guy that fought in Tampa. You're really high on him, you know, that fought a few weeks later. An opponent is looking for that moment too, man. And you know, he wants to win just as bad as you do. And I lost to a guy that I should have beaten, that I handpicked myself when Don and everybody offered 3 guys. Like, I'll take him, you know, and the people that I was involved with, maybe they were just as confident in me that I went in there and I fought this guy. And when I lost, like, wow, he lost to this bum. And they were, and I'm not calling him a bum because he beat me, right? And I take my hat off to him, and he's in the Hall of Fame, and he's a great guy, great father, comes from a boxing family. But these are the words that were used at that time, you know? And I'm like, so if he's a bum, then what am I? You know, like really, I lost to him, right? So he rose to the occasion that day, and I take my hat off to him, and I would never disrespect him. But the truth of the matter is, man, when you lose everything, yeah, because Ian just on Rob C just said everything disappears because now the gravy train is gone. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget it. It was the loneliest time of my life where I contemplated suicide. I'm not ashamed to say that. I contemplated suicide. I contemplated a great many things, you know, and me having a little 4-pound dog, 5-pound dog. And I started going to, you know, I like to get into religion, but I started going to church and stuff like that. And it helped me out a lot, you know, but even that, sometimes people don't understand those things. AJ, and I'm sorry to go back to the whole AJ situation. You know,
no, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's about mental health with these boxers. And now since Ryan Garcia took a big hit talking about the fact that he needed, you know, to take a break because mentally he's like, you know, it's too much. You know,
I'm a married
since
man
that
now.
hit, everybody else is now saying mental health.
I'm a married man now, right? And I love my wife. My wife's amazing. She's a nurse, you know, and but I tell people, when you do something from the age of 15 to the age of 20, or you do things from the age of 15 all the way to the age of 46 that I did. I never thought I would fight that long, but I ran out of money and I ran out of opportunity. So I had to keep fighting to get back on my feet. But the reality of the situation is when you train every single day, which I was a dedicated fighter to, you know, I was always in the gym doing something. When I come home and I'm trained to fight and I'm trained never to give ground and never to give in to anything. When I come home, how do we turn that off? Like, how do you stop doing something that you're trained to do every day of your life? And everybody tells you, don't show signs of weakness. Don't be passive. Don't be this way. Be aggressive. Be this. So then when you go and fight and you train and you're training in camp for 8 weeks and you come home and you get into an argument, you don't even want to lose an argument because that's giving ground. So it takes a lot of patience, and I God bless my wife, you know, for being the person that she is. You know, when I had to go, I actually, you know, spoke to somebody. I had some therapy. I went to church. The best therapy for me at the time was, you know, going to church, because a pastor told me one time, and I'm not going to get religious with you on things because everybody has their beliefs, but a pastor told me one time, when you go to the gym, and he wasn't well versed in boxing, but he said, when you go to church, when you go to the gym, what do? Explain to me exactly word for word, step by step what you do. And I was like, look, I run, I go to the gym, hit the bag, I train. And he's like, well, what's training? I said, I jump rope, I shadow box, I hit the mitts, I spar, I do sit-ups. I told him everything. He goes, okay, what do you do when you're not boxing? What do you do for your mental health? What do you do for your spiritual health? And this is where I get into a little spirituality. I won't get into that too much, but he says, do you read the Bible? Do you read? Do you take time away to be a normal person? Do you go walks on the beach? Do you,
do
read a book
for yourself?
Do something for yourself. And I'm like, I don't. He goes, well, how can you expect to balance that out? How can you expect to turn that switch off if all you're doing is boxing? And in reality, that's what you should do when you're in a boxing. You go to training camp, you should be in training camp. But AJ should get away. Danny Garcia spoke, and he touched me when he spoke about this when he fought, and he was going through mental issues. And it's not a joke, because before no one would speak about it because it was considered to be taboo and a sign of weakness. Oh, right. That guy's having a mental breakdown. He's such a coward. He's so weak. Right. No, man, this is reality, and people need to address this, and people need to speak about this. And I'm not jumping on any bandwagons. I know there's a couple of people out there that have some organizations that I support, mental health issues and things like that. I'm not jumping on a bandwagon. I'm speaking for reality, because I sat in the house and thought about and contemplated ending my own life. And, and that's not a joke. I'm grateful to be here to even be speaking about this, Well,
and we're going to go through the list and see. You'll see for yourself. These are some of the boxers that we now are seeing in these situations. Let's go ahead and start. Of course, we said Ryan Garcia. Now you got Danny Garcia, who just told us, in his post-fight interview that he struggled. And I know people are feeling like some of these guys are lying about their, emotions and different things. But I mean, Garcia started crying, like no man that wants to be on TV. Like it was real.
I felt that. I felt it. You know what I mean? Because I've been there and I know what that person felt. And it's always, and let me tell you something, as a fighter, as a former fighter, and I train fighters now. I train fighters now and I deal with a lot of mental issues with them because I don't want them to walk down the path. Listen, me as a coach, if they make the same mistakes I made, then I suck as a coach. They have to be greater. They have to be better prepared mentally and physically. I don't let them just talk to boxing. I take them out and I take them fishing and I take them to go do things. One of my kids has never been to a water park. I took them all to a water park. They have to enjoy the fruits of their labor because if not, what are we doing this for? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yes.
I think that was a great point that you were giving as advice, is to be more balanced. And then by you having your wife with you at that time, for support in that way, it gives you a chance to be vulnerable in that way. Like a lot of guys, they don't have somebody they can be vulnerable around because they're busy being like this macho man all the time.
Tough.
Yeah. So you can't even get vulnerable with somebody unless it is someone that's a true confidant and someone you can trust.
Most coaches don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that you're having a rough day. They don't want to hear about you having some issues at home. We can't be normal people. We can't be normal people. We can't have issues with friends. We can't have the only thing we can have issues with is money and finance. Well, if you have money problems, then get your ass up and go run and go change your life because you have everything right in your hands, so you got to go do it. You're a machine.
Yeah, you're like, I need money to pay this bill today.
yeah. And I'm not complaining about it. We're all evolving, we're all learning. Boxing, I love boxing. Boxing is the only sport in the world that doesn't have a union, doesn't have things of those natures, don't have, on site, football players have on staff and they go through mental issues. These guys get hit in the head like we do, and they're committing suicides in record numbers. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So there's just things that I'm so glad that the Danny Garcias and people talk a lot about Adrian Broner. Listen, if he was conscious enough to step back and say, you know what, I hit the brakes a little bit because I'm going through some mental issues, I commend him on that, and I take my hat off to him because you know what? Not enough fighters. Look, you go to training camp and you're a fighter, and I chose this sport because it's an individual sport. But the reality of the situation is that because it's an individual sport, you have 20 other people behind you counting on your victory.
Right. And so many mouths to feed from that victory.
Exactly. And whether they eat a lot or eat a little, whether they're in it for the fame or they're in it for the free ticket, or they're in it for the percentage of the fight, there's too many people around you. Added to the fact that most fighters start fighting, including myself, because we want to better our lives and the lives of those who we love, right? So you have all that pressure, which, hey, listen, we're not crying about it. I welcome it. But no one takes into consideration when we have a down day or we have a down fight, what we mentally go through, because the reality of it is no one addresses it. And I'm very glad that the Broners, and the Garcias.
We got Teo Fimo, also a boxer who said that he struggled with, emotional distress and dealing with the loss that he shouldn't have lost, dealing with family issues, dealing with custody disputes, I guess, dealing with just the pressures of people expecting you to win, and not just win, but overly, they want you to win confidently. Like they looking for a real tight KO from Teo.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you another side of the story that, yes, I'm picking a bone here. I'm picking a bone to fight here. Let me tell you this. I came from I come from the Bronx, and I moved to a small town in Florida, right? And being in a small town in Florida, I had a big target on my back because I was the biggest fish in that town. When I was in that town, everybody loved me and everybody did this, but behind my back, they were talking crap about me. They were talking about how I wasn't that good and how I wasn't this. In my face, they would say one thing and say, not all about, just some of them, right? And then you would be amazed the amount of rumors that people spread. And, listen, I'm a violent person. I want to go kick somebody's butt, but I can't do that because I'll be a bully. I can't react like the regular person. I can't call the cops. I can't call a lawyer because then I'm a really bad word. I'm a
Right.
whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? So, there's so many things that fighters go through. Look, I don't walk around with a camera and take pictures with fighters because, some fighters think to themselves, why does this guy want a picture with me? I'm nobody, right? And then, these people go around and they spread rumors about you and they think that a thank you is going to diminish the damage that they've done to your name or whatever. And fighters don't trust anybody because what do people want? They either want a free ticket, they want a poster, they want a picture, they want a signature. They go through so many things outside of what goes on. Listen, the fighting part of it is the easier part because when you look in that ring and you look across the ring, you know what that person wants and thinks about you. He wants to kick your butt and he wants to win. He wants to make his money and go home. After the fight, you hug each other because you put your life in a near-death situation and you respect each other. But outside the ring, you don't know who the hell are your friends. And the people that say you're friends, they're usually your enemies because they use little secrets against you and they manufacture stories about you, how you're not that good or how they helped you or how they got you this. And it's just absolutely mind-blowing, the stuff that fighters go through. It's a thing that I wish I can address it. I don't walk around, interviewing people and talking about these things and let me tell you something. People have a lot of secrets about me. I have a lot of secrets about people too. But I'm a man and I was taught to keep my mouth shut and do the things that I got to do because I got to stay in my lane no matter what. I'll never lower myself to the level of the person doing the damage. But there's so
we're definitely going to have a show so we can talk about some of these different episodes and challenges that boxers have, because I'm sure you're not the only one where people smile in your face and then as soon as they've turned their back, they're talking crap about you. I mean, that even happens. That's happened to me multiple times throughout my life. So
I won a belt, right? And I won't mention organization. I won a belt. And I didn't have Facebook and social media and none of that stuff, it's about 5 years ago. I was like old school, and I didn't do that stuff. This dude took a picture with my belt and was telling people that it was his belt, that he was a professional fighter and he did all this stuff. But these people that he tells these stories to didn't have the intelligence to look BoxRec up and find out if he was really a fighter. You know what I'm saying? And the guy was walking around telling people that he won this belt and that somebody stole it from his house. But it was my belt. And it was just the crazy things that come. Everybody's a coach. Everybody's a professional. Everybody did this. In this day and age, you can't lie about none of that stuff. You know what I mean? In this day and age, with social media and all the things that go on in the world, you could find everybody knows somebody that knows somebody, right? So you can, hey, yo, have you ever seen Sakura box before? Be like, hell no. I've seen a color commentate a few shows, but she ain't no boxer.
And she wasn't good, and she's ghetto, and she has a southern accent, and why do all these people like her? And what have she done to know the sport? She's never been in the. I could just keep going on and on because it's ridiculous.
Listen, when you welcome me onto the show, I have had a few people, who say positive and negative things. I'm like, listen, this lady showed me nothing but love, and if you're in the forefront of things, that's what I always tell you, man. To me, I'm a part of this team until you get rid of me. You have to give me a dispossess. I ain't leaving this show ever because I like what you bring. You're an honest person. You bring a good energy to this game. You know what I mean? Listen, I consider myself a Florida boy. I've been living in Florida for a long time. I'm from New York originally, but I think that I lost a little bit of my accent, right? Yeah. You have a Southern accent. Listen. Different in Colombia. I live in Colombia. They have this thing called the sancocho. ¿Tú tomas sancocho, Martín?
No me gusta, no.
Well, I like sancocho, so he doesn't like sancocho. Sancocho is a soup, and they put potatoes. They put different type of plátanos and stuff in there, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, corn.
We're a sancocho. You're from the south. I'm from up north. Martin is from Latin America, you know what I mean? And we bring a little bit to the game. Listen, there's no reason for us to limit ourselves and live in a box the way people want us to live in a box. We could do the things we want to do. That's why you're successful.
Hey, I appreciate all the good words, and I just try to keep it positive, even though I got to hear, how people think they telling somebody something that I will never hear. It always comes back to me eventually, and usually it's quicker than what people think. So I can just imagine that it has to be like tenfold worse for boxers with people kissing their ass in their face. Like, who doesn't want to run up to Floyd Mayweather if they saw him? If they see him, they're going to run up. They want the picture. They want to talk to him. And then 2 days later, they've talked about him in a negative way. Or even before they even met him, they was really like not even his fan. Like, that's the kind of thing that I'm sure a lot of boxers go through, much less those people that say they friends, but really got, animosity and jealousy in their heart.
Yeah. ¿Qué tú piensas de todas esas cosas que estamos hablando aquí, Martín? Como la gente son celosos y hablan mierda de gente en boxeo y como en esta plataforma, en estos momentos, siempre la gente está hablando de Sakura y la cosa que pasa a los boxeadores, porque hoy en día, mira, tú sabes que allá en tu lugar cuando yo abrí el gimnasio, no había nadie que tenía gimnasio. Ahora hay como 10 gimnasios de boxeo y todo el mundo sabe todo. Y después, no me molesta eso, pero la gente que están hablando no sabe nada de boxeo y quieren hablar de más de uno que sí sabe. Eso vuelve a la persona loca, ¿no?
Como el tipo ese que me dijo que el shoulder roll vino de Cuba, que lo inventaron los cubanos y que le metió un codazo.
Yeah, somebody told Martin a few months ago in Colombia that the shoulder roll was 2 years ago that the shoulder roll was invented in Cuba. And the shoulder roll wasn't invented in Cuba, my brother. That's
the Philly shell. They call it the Philly shell for a reason. But then them Ohio boys also got a right to say that it might have came from their area as well.
Yeah, Ohio too.
You remember this old man?
It's funny.
You remember this old man that te estaba cobrando $80 por una estantería y él te había dicho que eran 40,000 pesos. ¿Te estaba cobrando en dólares?
Ni me recuerdo.
Tú estabas ahí, tú te enojaste.
No me recuerdo. Somebody was charging money for something, boxing, whatever, trying to triple charge me for things. It's just people are crazy, man. It's just I'm really happy.
Other people that called you the craziest Yankee.
Oh yeah, listen. You know what they call me in Colombia?
Sakura.
In Colombia, every American is called the gringo, whether you're black, white, Spanish, Asian, doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, like Hawaii.
So they call me the crazy gringo over there.
I mean, I can't believe that they calling you crazy, and then on top of that, calling you the gringo, because over here that's just like it's a Caucasian man. So
yeah, no,
that all is funny to me.
Over there, if you're from America, you're called a gringo, no matter what complexion you are, Yeah. But it was funny. But anyway, listen.
Sometimes it's a good thing to be called crazy because people won't try you.
Oh no, they know better. But listen,
right.
But listen, real quick. A mí me gusta la tema de hoy, que la gente hoy en día, los boxeadores por fin están saliendo y están hablando de la capacidad y las cosas que están pasando en la mente de los boxeadores, las cosas que están pasando en el sentido de prisión y las cosas que pasan en la vida de boxeadores afuera del ring. Porque el ring es lo más fácil. Lo que pasa en el ring es lo que uno estudia todos los días, practica. Pero lo que está pasando afuera del ring, de cuadrilátero, es una cosa que es muy grosero, muy horrible. Y gracias a Dios que gente como Danny Garcia y Adrian Broner y varios boxeadores, yo igual, y una gente que está parte de un grupo que se llama Mental Health, que están hablando de esas cosas porque es una cosa muy seria. El boxeo no se juega. Hay un boxeador que muere cada mes del año y muchos de ellos ya están en un punto que se están sucediendo y están haciendo cosas que le están haciendo daño y la gente tiene que empezar a identificar esas cosas hoy en día. ¿Cierto, Martín?
Yeah. Yeah. For example, Julio César Chávez Jr. is in rehabilitation again.
Is that right?
What happened?
Julio says he just found out that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is in rehabilitation again. I'm not sure for what.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we always wish him the best. Every time I see him on like social media or something, it's something that's funny, but then you do realize kind of behind it that, he hot. Yeah, like that's just the reality of it. So I wish him nothing but the best in his recovery. And I'm so glad that his father, Chavez Sr., opened up that facility and created it in that area of Tijuana so they can help, people that didn't have that type of resource before. That
But
was just
Junior
some
is not the
innovative stuff.
same after the fight with Sergio Maravilla. Sergio Martinez, the
Sergio
Marvelous.
Martinez. Yeah, he
He's
doesn't
not the
really.
same
Yeah, he's probably not the
after
same.
that fight.
After that fight, I mean, I remember that fight because I'm a huge Martinez fan, and he really, put some boxing skills on him. And you might be
And
right. Like some of this can also include with mental health issues with boxers. It can also include CTE damage,
and
and that's just the
Martinez doesn't
reality
hear
of
in
things.
his right here. He doesn't hear.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
me and my left ear, I busted my eardrum, but from a punch. But listen, off to another subject. I mean, mental health and all these subjects we're talking about. I would love Sakura for us to continue speaking about this in later programs. Maybe get some doctors into this. Maybe get some. Too bad Dr. Fields, rest in peace, not around because when I went through my mental health issues, Dr. Fields helped me out a lot. I was on this reality show called The Contender,
Eh,
and I came home and I was really really ill
Yeah.
from the stomach, and I had a lot of depression going on. And he actually picked me up from the airport and helped me out a lot. I got to see some doctors, and he really helped my life out. And may he rest in peace. But
But
Absolutely.
this is
that's
Lisa
este,
McClellan is working with a set of doctors now with stem cell research and with CET damage, doctors that specialize in CTE damage. So maybe she has somebody that can come on the show with us for like a special edition on this topic.
but it's and there's so many things that I like to talk about in the future. Like I love boxing. I think there's a lot of things we need to clean up. They make all these boxers pass all these requirements. Like, I'm glad that they required fighters to have an amateur background of a minimum of a certain amount of fights in each state.
Yeah.
But I think that because fighters are required to prove that they have an ABF book or USA book or whatever type of book, they have so many fights. I think that they need to do this all around, not only in for the fighters, trainers, and so on and so on and so on. Because nowadays you get these trainers, they're friends of friends who throw a towel over their shoulder and they call themselves a coach, and they take a few pictures and they hang around a few people and they're coaches and stuff like that. And I'm not taking a shot in particular, but I know somebody here close to me right now. Actually in Colombia, you know what I mean. That I know that they watch you work the mitts a few times and they call themselves a coach, and and they get those kids hurt. I've seen two fighters die personally right in front of me. One had a fight and one in the gym in South Florida. This is not a game, and
that's also something mental to deal with too. Seeing someone doing what you're doing and them not make it, like that has to be also in the back of your mind when you're boxing.
Yeah, you're right. ¿Iba a decir algo, Martín?
Yeah, es acerca de las derrotas, de defeats. The defeats are not bad, not necessarily bad, because you can learn about your mistakes in that defeat. For example, Canelo in front of Mayweather. Canelo learns a lot of things about that fight.
Absolutely.
And he was undefeated for 9 years, 10 years after Bivol. Well,
right. I mean, I personally agree with you. I think that I think that the boxing fans are getting too caught up in this, whatever number and like no defeats. When sometimes some of these boxers really do need a defeat in order to learn from it and to become a better boxer. But we're so busy, some of them are so busy rotating around and hiding from someone that could give them a L, that they are not getting the type of gain and knowledge that they need through fighting someone that is giving them more opposition.
Yeah. Listen, Sakura, I want to keep going with I could talk about this all day, but
we do got to wrap this show up, Danny.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely are going to have a second part 2 to this mental health thing. Before we go, I just want to make sure that I give a shout out to referee Christopher Young, who had an amazing main event fight this weekend with Figueroa and Lipinets. There was times where, you know, I kind of sensed he might have wanted to stop that fight, but Figueroa was still throwing back. So he had no choice but to wait until the team gave the go-ahead to, you know, stop the fight. But he handled everything really well, and I was happy because Showtime gave him a little shout out and, you know, told about his record as a referee. And I love the fact that he's with, you know, he's a judge with the WBC.
Listen, I took a clinic with him in Florida last year. Highly intelligent individual. I was honored to meet him. I can't say that, you know, we're close friends or anything like that because I only met him the once or twice, but highly intelligent. I love this clinic. He's very wise, and I look forward to seeing him in other championship fights. Hold on real quick. I want to give a shout out to a close friend, Jesus Scalera, who has now joined. Not only is he putting on fights at the Hall of Fame, but now he's a part of the committee. And I think that his voice, his intelligence, and you know what? His stickler for seeing things a certain way is a great addition to that committee.
Yeah, for sure. I know that it's going to be a situation where he's going to make a difference. And he really has that in his heart to try to, you know, make the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame bigger and better, as well as give those that maybe have been overlooked in other years, to try to give them the opportunity to at least get on the radar with the board to, you know, start initiating. Hey, this person would be great. Hey, this person's been in the industry for this amount of time. He's accomplished this. Why haven't you did that? So I think this is something good for the organization, you know, because always you're looking for like the top dogs in your area, like to be in the Hall of Fame, like a Danny Santiago, like a Tarver, like a Orlando Cuellar, like that class that you were in. You're looking for those bigger names, but there are a lot of people that never really get their accolades for the hard work and volunteer and dedication and missing hours with their family. So I'm hoping that this is a way that Tito is able to, you know, influence and use his position to the better. So congratulations.
Hey, Jesus, TK Promotions in the house. I got to give them some love. Jesus is the man. I really like him. I like his views on things, and he really sticks to his guns, and I respect that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that he stand up and he treats Boxing Playhouse the way that I feel that we should be treated, which is fair. I don't ask for favors. I don't ask to be bigger than the next person or to bigger than the next media outlet. I just want people to be fair with us. So I think that he does an excellent job with, you know, supporting Boxing Playhouse. So I appreciate the fact that we're going to get to see him on the board. And let's just be honest. We got a little minority blood in there now, you know, Danny. On this board. Somebody finally made it. I mean, it's really breaking barriers. I didn't want to get into that too much because it doesn't matter what complexion or, you know, what his background is. Ethnically, he deserved and he earned that place.
Him and his wife, they bring a lot to the game. I mean, let's not count her out. She's very intelligent as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Of meeting her. And you know, they say a man is only as strong as a woman is when standing next to him, not behind him, right? So they're just a great addition to it. I'm so happy when I read it. I haven't spoken to him since, but, you know, much love. Congratulations, my brother. Listen, Sakura, I'm going to let you close it out if you want. We've been on this a little while. I'm going to say some stuff in Spanish. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Martín, gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Yo creo que tú digas algo cuando quieras. No cuelgue todavía porque yo creo que tú hables. Pero primero que nada, perdón a la gente que hablamos mucho inglés, más inglés que español hoy. Pero hoy hablamos de un tema que era muy importante y cerca de mi corazón, el tema de la depresión y la cosa que pasa a los boxeadores hoy en día. Pues yo sí ha pasado por esas cosas y vamos a seguir hablando de eso porque para mí eso es muy importante. Demasiado muchos boxeadores están perdiendo la vida, están perdiendo dinero, están perdiendo muchas cosas porque algunas veces son la culpa de nosotros. Yo soy uno que soy culpable, pero a la misma vez hay mucha gente que lo ayuda también a joderlo y a aprovecharse de ello y necesitamos ayuda. Necesitamos que alguien abra los ojos y hagan, no sé cómo se hace, pero hacer, a buscar una ayuda, un tema de arreglar una cosa que está rota por muchos años. Y quiero darle muchas gracias a toda la gente allá afuera que lo está mirando. Si puedes tocar el botón que te gusta, sería muy bueno. Martín y yo estamos aquí cada semana. La semana que viene vamos a tener una entrevista con una persona muy importante en boxeo. Lo vamos a usar en estos días. Martín, yo te digo de verdad, de mi corazón, gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Y tú eres una buena adición con nosotros.
Gracias.
Ok, si quieres despedirte, gracias. Latin American Boxing Playhouse.
Goodbye, Sakura.
Goodbye.
Peace.
All right. Thanks, guys. Martin, we appreciate you hanging in there with Danny every week. And that's Wednesdays at 8 p.m.
Rob, see you later, Rob.
Just 9 as well. Rob, thank you.
Adios,
Sherman,
Rob.
other people that responded, we appreciate you. Tomorrow night, we've got more heavyweight topics because we will be talking about, does a heavyweight in today's era stand up to heavyweights from the past? And would Fury have a chance against heavyweights of the past? These are the topics that we'll be talking about. And we'll also have our bare knuckle fighting champ, Lorenzo Hunt, in the house. He's also a champion at light heavyweight, and he has a fight coming up on, I think it's October 1st in Louisiana.
Juggernaut.
So we can't wait to speak to him as well because he always speaks his mind too, Danny. So this should be interesting.
The Juggernaut.
The Juggernaut in the house. All right. And so let's go ahead and wrap this show up. We'll see you next time right here on Boxing Playhouse.
Welcome to the house, the one they talking about. Word of mouth. The Boxing Playhouse, without a doubt. All the latest and greatest boxing news, that's what it's all about.